And that is that we treat thinking like your head's on fire. You remember when you catch on fire, they tell you there are 3 things to do: stop, drop, and roll. So the first thing, stop it. Stop thinking if you can. Take a deep breath, pause, just look away from it for a minute. Drop into the deeper part of who you are, and then roll with what's happening. Stop thinking, drop into depth, and roll with what's happening. Because the roll part really comes with this idea of acceptance. And when we can accept what is, not to say that we accept it and don't try to improve our life, but we come to a state of acceptance that this is how it is this moment. Today is my first day back, really second day. I got here last night. I was in Canada for 10 days, and in that time period, I forgot what it was to be a minister. And so this is like first day back at work, and it's sort of weird, actually. So if I stumble, it's because I'm just not yet back in North Carolina. But I do want to talk to you today about, I believe, the topic today is to how to be in the world but not of it. And one of the things that critiques I often get when I give people what I think is the best advice possible, which is to become aware of your inner divinity and to rest in that and let that mind. They say, well, what about what's happening in the world? And to which I say, I'm not dealing with that when I'm telling you how to not be a worrywart. Because if I was to tell you what you should do about in the world, I would just be adding to the same conversation you're having in your own head, which is repetitive and boring and irritating and frightening and painful, and all the things you know you want to get away from or fix is actually most of that process that makes you feel that way is what's going on between your ears. It's my Robert Kennedy Jr. interpretation. President. Sorry about that. Have you noticed that a thought arises to which you either attach another thought or another thought comes up? And once you start thinking about some thought that catches your attention, it's usually not a new thought. Have you noticed that? It's not like, not like you're discovering something or that you're hearing it for the first time out of your own mouth or something. It's just the same old story. It is a repeat. It is one of the things I've noticed that is really hateful about the way our minds work is that it gets a groove and it rides that groove and it has a hard time breaking away. We almost consciously have to decide to not think about something or to distract ourselves with something else, or that repetitive thought will arise, boom. Have you noticed that? Or is it this? Maybe I'm autobiographical here, but I'm just saying that the history of your thought is predicting the future of your thought because of the way the mind works. And one of the things I would like y'all to consider is that thinking, have you ever heard this? Thinking is stinking. You ever heard this phrase? Maybe that'll stick with you. Thinking is stinking. Thinking is the source of your suffering. Now you have pain and there are events, but the thinking is what causes us problem. Not just that we are not allowed to think, but that we repeat our thoughts over and over. I was watching a brief YouTube. A man had programmed ChatGPT to give him 5 pearls of wisdom, drawing from Buddhism, Jungian, modern psychology, neuro, blah, blah, blah. He says, give me the best you got. And what he gave, one of the 5 things it said was that you are not a personality, you're just a pattern. We are so proud of being who we are we not? And yet, it's mostly a pattern that we repeat over and over. Inventiveness doesn't go with the pattern. Inventiveness is repetition. And when we find that we're unhappy with the world, we repeat the thought that brought us to that conclusion. And we remember it, and therefore we repeat it, and then we say it again and again. Now, there's certain conditions in your life which seem almost, by definition, that we should have a certain feeling about. I was watching Eckhart Tolle, and he was reading a question from someone who says, my father died, and I was grieving, and as I was grieving, I sat in meditation or in stillness, and I found peace and some joy. Am I doing it wrong? And one of the beautiful things that Eckhart Tolle said was essentially pain or suffering of loss can take you deeper into your own experience to where you transcend or go beyond your pattern of thought and experience to come to the realization of something more profound, of that inner self, that presence which has always been in you as you, but the thinking took up so much time and space that you failed to see it. And then because of the intensity of the moment, your willingness to move into another state of being allows you to transcend the pattern that you've been doing, and you drop into that consciousness where peace and where joy reside, not as manufactured by outside events, but just by its beingness itself. You drop into that place, and then you are experiencing that no matter what has just happened. And of course it's right to grieve, because the body is part of this fabric of life on earth. And part of the fabric of life on earth is becoming attached to and caring for and wanting the best for and all that. And there is the right of each individual to grieve what they are losing. Recently, I was having a conversation with someone, and I just started to cry. And I was still talking. But I was experiencing the fact that I'm going to lose everything. Or I was anticipating the experience of losing everything. When you die, you lose everything. You lose your friends, you lose your body, you lose your possessions. You don't have them anymore. And you've moved on to something else, but in your case, when you die, you let go of everything. And sometimes in that process of letting go of everything, you realize something that Jesus said a long time ago. I'm going to read it from Discover the Power Within You, which is written by Eric Butterworth, a brilliant book, although I have my critique about it. Let me read what Jesus said a long time ago. Therefore I say unto you, be not anxious for your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor for your body what you shall put on it. Is not life more than food, and the body more than raiment? Behold the birds of the heavens, that they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, and your heavenly Father feedeth them. He spoke Old English. I want to read you the rest of this, but I don't really want to take that much time. You know this phrase, right? Stop worrying about everything. And it adds down here, this should cause many of us to blush a little. How much of our waking thought is devoted to such details as what shall we eat and drink and wear? And if Jesus were giving his sermon today, he would perhaps add the reference to mass anxiety and neurosis about gaining weight and dieting to lose it. And so we are. We are in the habit of thinking and worrying about stuff. And the news has done a really good job of that. I was flying back from Canada on Friday night, and we had been in Canada for 10 days. And Canada, if you haven't been there, might be where the United States would like to become, because people are nice, the place is clean, and transportation is pretty easy. And when we got back to Raleigh, North Carolina, it was in the midst of the busiest day I've ever seen at RDU, and you had to work your way after you got your luggage to get to the curb because there were so many people there and so many cars and all that, and people started honking, and I thought, we're not in Canada anymore. And so I realized that the cultural milieu that we're living in right now is full of anxiety about what will happen next. There's good reason. There's a tremendous amount of change. Many of us find that change disturbing. Many of us find it confusing. Many of us wonder why we're getting rid of institutions that used to serve us so well. We don't know this. We don't understand. And so we have reason to recognize that things are going differently. And it is easy for things like that to cause anxiety. However, beneath your recognition of change lies the changeless you, the one that is always aware, that is always silent, that has no judgment, that breathes the air of existence and does not care what comes next or what has just happened. This is the you that we overlook and cannot see when our minds are filled with thoughts, especially when you're in repetition. Now, a thinking versus a thought can be compared to this. A thought bubbles up from the wealth of possibilities. A thinking repeats, rehearses, and reduces the possibilities. A thought is full of promise, possibility, novelty, insight. Thinking boxes in and keeps our ears pinned to it so we cannot hear the new thought. And so I have an idea, and that is that we treat thinking like your head's on fire. You remember when you catch on fire, they tell you there are 3 things to do: stop, drop, and roll. So the first thing, stop it. Stop thinking if you can. Take a deep breath, pause, just look away from it for a minute. Drop into the deeper part of who you are, and then roll with what's happening. Stop thinking, drop into depth, and roll with what's happening. Because the roll part really comes with this idea of acceptance. And when we can accept what is, not to say that we accept it and don't try to improve our life, but we come to a state of acceptance that this is how it is this moment. and that it was changing all the time, but I can accept it is as this moment, and therefore I don't have to struggle with suffering that of finding it isn't the way I like it. Coming back to the cars at RDU, there was going to be a moment for many of these cars where they had to pause from doing what they wanted to do to let someone out so they could actually do what they wanted to do. And they had two choices: stop or blow the horn. Which would cause the greater good? And so this is the way our minds work too. We can either accept what needs to happen or is happening, even if it's not our preference, or we can blow the horn and have a repetitive thought again. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because you're going to be in the world. You're going to be in the world. You have a body, you have a life, you have a family, you have jobs, you have all that. You probably won't be the one who sits in a cave in the Himalayas and meditates. You're probably going to be an American, doing what Americans do. But can you do it with the peace that passes the understanding that most of us have in this world? Can you do that? So I have a prop, ridiculous as it may seem. So I've debated whether I should do this. You can guess why, right? So I tried to talk to this thing, and I asked what its problems was. He said, I'm anxious. Well, I said, I'm anxious. I'm anxious because I'm not the most powerful thing in the world. And the forces of this world seem to be interfering with my joy. And I have a friend who's dying. And I recognize I'm getting older. It's not very old, but they die quickly when they're this small. And I was thinking about this creature, which is the creature that we all are when we look in the mirror. We can see a form. We can see someone looking in there. We can feel. We have all our senses working. And we are so enamored with the sensations of being alive, the sounds, the sights, the texture, our thoughts in particular, that we can't quite remember who we really are. And the one that we really are, the one that makes this thing move, that gives it purpose and life, gives it energy, gives it the experience of anything, the one that does that is not this, but the hand of God. The hand of God is what moves you. And what gives us the peace that we're looking is when we cease to make this the thing we're most enamored with and spend some time recognizing this that lives within you. And we've talked about how to do that with some regularity here. But the first and easiest way to ask is, are you alive? Do you exist? And though this may be the first to answer, if you sit with that question, perhaps you'll come to the realization that the I, that you say, I exist, the I can be the I of this one, but also the I of this one. I am is what God said to Moses. I am is what answers when you say, who's having this experience? I am. And when we cease to think all the time, what we can hear is this silent presence that's saying, I am. And this stillness inside you is the same I am that made the universe, that experiences everything that's going on, but not as a deficit or an increase, but just is aware. Think of space, of this room. Inside this room, we are all moving around, but the space is not bothered by whether you're happy or sad, whether you're going to lunch afterwards, or whether you just woke up and we're singing the praises of God. This space does not matter. It does not matter to it. And to the consciousness that holds all of you and is you, all is well, because it's not dependent in any way on the activities of this. It lives, it is, maybe I should say, before and after this guy. And when you die and you have given up sight, sound, taste, touch, thoughts, memories, when you die, this is still there. Still as it was before you were born, while you're living, and when you die. To this, we need to pay attention. And if we do so, we can walk in the world and not be just ruled by the circumstances of our life, but will be the witness of everything that is happening and be a place where peace exists. And that peace is what everybody's looking for. That happiness is what everybody's looking for, that sense of well-being. So why not skip the drama and find the peace? Let us pray. Okay, let's go step by step toward the awareness that is the animation of who you are. Imagine for a moment that you have no more senses, that the sense of sight and sound, of taste and touch and smell are gone. And also let go of any thoughts that you've had or are having, that there are no more thoughts. And there's no more memory. And there's no more emotion. I now answer this question. Who is there? Who is aware at this moment? I'll answer for you because you already know the answer. I am. Hold on to that experience of that presence of awareness, of consciousness. Sink into that. When we live in peace, we make peace more available around us. When we see no other, but only the self reflected, it's easy to love. when we rest in awareness, it's easy to feel happiness. Who's having this experience? I am. Sink down into that I am. Let it be. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.